right brain. Insane. Don't lie to me. Don't fry your. Don't tear it. More care. Vegetables. West side, the right. In. Don't lie to me. Don't fry your.
Golgari gets an interesting self-mill commander with a replacement effect on him. Each time you cast him or it gets to your upkeep, you either get a treasure token, an insect token, or a blood token depending on what you mill. Unfortunately, this ability is only a once a turn effect, so you don't get repeatable value off him. It's a bit limiting in that regard, yet Golgari is all about getting stuff in the graveyard to replay them at a later time, so it's not the worst, and it's actually akin to that strategy as well. Next we're looking at is Doretha, Vengeful Victim. A 4/4 for white and blue legendary spirit with flying, and when Doretha, Vengeful Victim attacks or blocks, sacrifice it at the end of combat, and it has disturbed 1 white and blue that you can transform onto as Doretha's Retribution. It's an aura with enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, create a 4/4 white spirit creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking, sacrifice the token at the end of combat, and if Doretha's Retribution would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. I don't think this would be a great commander, considering that although both sides of the cards are super strong, it would rarely get the disturb ability off on one of your creatures before an opponent destroys it. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of this card, and would probably just throw it into the 99 of an Aura or Enchantress deck for the extra perk. That's just me personally, but if you have differing opinions on this, let me know in the comments down below. The last 4 commanders we're getting to right now, starting off with Anya, Maid of Dishonor, a 4/5 for 2 black and red legendary vampire. Whenever Anya, Maid of Dishonor, and or one of or more other vampires enter the battlefield under your control, create a blood token. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then for 2, sacrifice another creature or a blood token. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So I'm not gonna say I don't like this card based on its design, since she does have great stats for 4 mana and a very strong ability. It's very hard to compete with her former version being a very strong commander in the format, and as an individual card, I do prefer that version. However, the Maid can be made as a very viable commander, and given the proper construction, and I could see her possibly winning games for that draining ability. It's really strong. Next we're looking at is Henrika Domnathi, a 1/3 for 2 black legendary vampire with flying, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one that has been chosen. Each player sacrifices a creature, you draw a card and lose 1 life, and transform Henrika Domnathi into Henrika Infernal Seer, a 3/4 legendary vampire with flying, death touch, and lifelink, and 1 black. Each creature you control with flying, death touch, and or lifelink gets +1/+0 until end of turn. She seems like a very quick commander to flip over, since her ability is a choosable option to transform her. You can even do it on the turn she hits the field. Her flip side does have a good set of abilities, and I would definitely consider her in the 99 over her being the driving commander of the deck. That said, she does seem to be very well rounded, and especially the flip side's secondary ability is not a tap ability, so you have multiple increments of 3 mana that you can give +1/+0 to each one of your creatures with flying, death touch, and or lifelink. The penultimate card that we're going to be talking about today is Catilda, Dawnhart Martyr. Star for 1 white legendary spirit warlock with flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires. Catilda Dawnhart Martyr's power and toughness are equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. and Disturb 3 white that transforms her into Catilda's Rising Dawn, where she becomes a legendary enchantment aura with enchant creature. An enchanted creature has flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, and it gets +X, where X is the number of permanents you control that are spirits and or enchantments. If Catilda Rising Dawns would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So I can very much make the same argument for Catilda and copy paste it from Dorothea. However, I do value Catilda's ability more since she gives creatures when she's in her enchantment. She pumps her creatures based on the number of spirits and enchantments. This means this would definitely be an auto include in most enchantment builds, especially with how small her cost is. And even the disturb cost for 3 mana, most enchantment builds run green, so you're not going to be on a shortage of mana as well, so you can easily fit Catilda in there. The last commander we're going to be looking at today is Jacob Hopkin Inspector. A 0/2 for 1 and a blue legendary human advisor with tap, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may pay 4 blue. If you do, transform Jacob Hopkin Inspector into Hawkins Insight. Who that becomes at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at that card as long as it remains exiled. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land card or cast a spell from among the cards exiled with this permanent without paying its mana cost. Honestly, in my own personal opinion, I definitely see this as a 99 card and not as a driving commander. I don't like the design on it, and I do believe he's being more useful as part of the deck instead of leading it. That being said, if you're playing bigger mana value spells in blue, this could be useful, especially trying to cast an Omniscience for 10 mana is kind of steep, so using Hawkins Insight instead to cast Omniscience is much more valuable in that regard.